So now we're ready to get the show on the road. Before I introduce you to our county commissioners and a challenger, we'd like to remind you that the statements and opinions made by these people here tonight are their own and not necessarily those of the Lapeer County Tea Party Patriots. The same goes of the questions asked. They are of the individuals who have asked them, and in addition, we request that there be no videotaping or audio recording. Tonight's meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and the recorded meeting in its entirety will be made available on our website within about the next week. What we have here are some postcards for any of you who have questions for the commissioners. If you'd like to raise your hand if you have a question that you would like to have asked, we have a few pre-asked questions. We'll bring you those postcards. You write your question on that postcard and raise your hand again when you're done, and our gentleman here will pick that up for you. After the introduction, the questions will begin. Technically speaking, tonight's going to be a little bit different than the last two events. What we're going to do is we're going to introduce each commissioner and the challenger. They're going to be given 2 minutes to introduce themselves, whether they want to give a personal background, professional, whatever they'd like to do. And then what we're going to do after that is we're going to begin asking the questions, and depending if it's for every commissioner or individual ones, these people will each get 90 seconds to respond. And in the interest of time, we would ask that you hold your applause until the end, or unless I tell you to, simply because I want to be the boss tonight. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our Lapeer County Commissioners. From the 1st District tonight, Ms. Cheryl Clark is here. Hi, Cheryl. Good to see you. And Ms. Clark has a challenger this well, not in the primary, but actually going right into the general. His name is Mr. Jerry Edwards. Jerry, welcome. 2nd District here tonight, Mr. Gary Roy. Good to see you. 3rd District, Mr. Dial Henning. Nice to see you. 4th District, Mr. Lenny Schneider. 5th District, Mr. David Eady. Linda Jarvis could not be here this evening. She's not feeling well. So 7th District is Mr. C. Ian Kempf. All right, so we've got a couple of questions ahead of time, and we're going to start going down the line. When we have questions for all, it's going to start here, move on forward as necessary. The commissioners have an opportunity to say, I'll pass because that's so-and-so's gig. You have that opportunity. At the 60-second mark, my good buddy down here, John Olivo, is going to hold up a yellow caution flag, and then at the 90-second mark, he gets the red one. So, okay, are we good to go? All right, Jerry, I'm going to hand you the wireless, and we're going to start with our questions. Again, if anybody has questions from the audience that you'd like to ask, hold your hand up, we'll get you that postcard. Let's do your introductions. Thank you. We'll do that. Jerry, we're going to start with your 2-minute introduction. You've got the mic. You're on.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Patriots as a whole, thank you. My name is Jerry Edwards. I've been in local government for 34 years. I'm disciplined by the state of Michigan in 5 categories. I carry a national certification and an international certification as a fire inspector. I'm currently serving as fire marshal for the township of Mayfield, and I'm in this for the people. I don't have a lot to say. I'd rather field questions. My background's not that important for where I'm headed, but thank you for your time, and I'll turn this over to Mrs. Clark.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us again today. We always love to come and talk about our county business. I'm Cheryl Clark. I represent Deerfield, Rich, and Marathon Township. I've been a county commissioner for 26 years. I started when I was very young. I've been married to my husband for 40 years, and we have 3 children and 6 grandchildren. And I first became a county commissioner because I worked for the seniors, and they called and asked me to run for county commissioner, and I said no, but in the end I said yes. And it's been a very good fit for me. I do a lot of the human services, and I'm very conservative, so I think my board will agree that sometimes I'm the most conservative, but I think that's what you need to be a good official, to make sure that you spend money wisely, because it's not my money I'm spending, it's yours. So I try to be very cautious on what we do and how we spend it, and the services that we provide, to make sure that it makes everybody happy and meets all of the needs of the people. So with that, I will turn it over to Gary.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Good evening. My name is Gary Roy, and I represent the 2nd District, which is Goodland, Arcadia, Burnside, North Branch, and Burlington Townships, and the villages of North Branch and Clifford. It basically is the largest land area in the particular county. I have about 33% of the land area. And of the 18 townships, I have 5 of them and 2 of the village. But saying that, I've been a commissioner for the last 7.5 years. I am seeking re-election, and I'm also seeking your support again, as I had 2 years ago from the Tea Party. I've been married for 45 years. I have 2 sons. I have 5 grandchildren now. Oldest one's 18, the youngest one's 2 months. And saying that, I always seek re-election because there's issues every day coming out of Washington, D.C. that this county needs to face. New rules and regulations are causing us a lot of concerns, especially some of the new rules and regulations that the EPA and this administration seem to be dumping on us. One of them is I guess the most important is the fact that the EPA and they're basically going to take over your rights to your water. And that one's coming, and local government needs to step up and start to do something about this. They say government starts at the lower level. Well, the lower level better start to speak up. So I'll turn this over to Commissioner Henning.
Thank you.
Dial Henning.
I'll give you those two.
Sure.
County budgets. We'll ask that county budgets be handed out so you can perhaps ask some questions from those. I've been a county commissioner since 2003, so I'm in my 6th term. And I represent currently, after last year's census, I represent all of Oregon, 2 precincts in Mayfield and 1 in Elba. My wife, Wantu, is here. She's right back here. And I have 3 children, 5 grandchildren, and 1 on the way. My oldest grandson is 7, so we have a lot of young ones around. Some of my background, I went to Cornell University and then on to Columbia Law, where I finally graduated. After 6.5 years experience in Vietnam, I was there with the International Voluntary Services, Peace Corps-like group, and then on a Fulbright teaching grant at several colleges. We came back, my wife and I and part of her family, in a hurry in 1975. I joined MSU Extension, particularly the 4-H youth program, and did that for 27 years, and then was county extension director here in Lapeer for 19. Some of the things that I think I bring to the board, I'll be curious if my fellow commissioners agree, would be knowledge of county government and especially human services because of my stint as 4-H agent and also as county extension director. The ability to work with people and the ability to ask a lot of tough questions and thoughtful questions most of the time. Occasionally I throw in a dud. A certain amount of independence. The board puts up with me. And this is a board that is very good at not always agreeing, but agreeing in a nice way. We have our arguments, and I think that's very healthy. But somebody can be independent without creating a lot of trouble. Support for a balanced approach to human services. Thank you.
Okay, moving along to Lenny Schneider.
First of all, thank you to the Lapeer County Tea Party Patriots for hosting this event. Thank you for all the guests for coming and anybody that views this later, because being an educated voter is so important in this process. My name is Lenny Schneider. I'm a career, lifelong public servant. I am a 25-year police commander veteran from Fort Lauderdale. Moved here with my family in 2000. Me and my wife both were raised in the Midwest. Down south is not a good place to raise a family per se. So I raised all my kids up here through the school system. All my kids are now grown. I've got 5 grown children, 2 grandchildren. I was a public safety director for the city for a couple years. Decided to stick my head into the political arena at the local level, because that's where my experience has been. I've been serving at the local level on your county board now. This is my 6th term also. I got on with Dial in 2003. So this is my 39th year of public service. I love serving my neighbors and my friends. I'm proud of it. I stand for integrity. That means the world to me. I also want to take this opportunity to thank, again with this upcoming weekend, all of our veterans and all of our current armed forces serving this weekend. Would not be possible without any of them. Also, if we don't get a chance to tell you more about us tonight, feel free to call the county office, main number 667-0366, again 667-0366. Tell them you want to speak with your county commissioner from your district. We're always glad to meet with anybody, spend as much time as you want. Also, if you want to know more about our particular districts, that, a lot of other information is on our website, lapeercountyweb.org, lapeercountyweb.org. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to move along now to Mr. David Eady, District 5.
Thank you. I am Dave Eady, and thank you for having us tonight, and I want to thank all of you for being here. I am in my running for my 3rd term as commissioner. I too, along with Commissioner Schneider, my life has all been in public service. I was a police officer for 20 years. I'm in my 33rd year as a firefighter. I've been the fire chief down in Metamora for, well, since 2002. And I'm married, been married for 25 years, have 2 grown sons and 2 young grandchildren. Don't get to see them that often. They live out west, but just had them last week, so I'm still on a little bit of a high from being able to see the kids. But again, I like to, being the new kid on the block up here with these guys, I really enjoy the public service. I look to them for a lot of answers and things I have, because I'm still learning, believe it or not. County government is so complex, it's a long learning curve. So I want to thank my fellow commissioners for all the help they've given me, and I know if I have a question I can ask them and it'll be answered. So thank you again for having us.
Thank you very much. Skipping over again, Linda Jarvis, who's not here. Going on to Ian Kempf.
Thank you very much. My name is Ian Kempf. I'm the County Commissioner from District 7, which is Emily Township, Elmont Township, Emily City, and Elmont Village. And since Gary put in that he is the largest area, I will throw in that I have the largest population of all the commissioners in my district. So I reside in Emily City. My wife and I are small business owners. We own a florist in downtown Emily City. I must admit, my wife is pretty much the brains of the small business. I am more the delivery guy. But I also run the Eastern Michigan State Fair in Emily City, and I am in my 17th year as the fair manager. I am currently serving my 7th term, or my 14th year, as a county commissioner. I must say it's been my privilege to serve as a county commissioner. And also it's really been my privilege to serve with my fellow commissioners. As some folks have already stated, as a commission, I think we work extremely well together. We do differ in opinion from time to time, which is good, but after our differences, we shake hands, we smile, and we move on to the next issue. which I think is not necessarily done enough in government today. But with that, I also must say that John and my mother graduated together, so the last thing I want is a red card tonight, because I might get in trouble from my mom. I don't want to do that. Okay, thanks, John. But saying that, thank you very much for having us. It is always a privilege to come here. I'm sure we will get more into our budget and to the conservativeness of your county commission, so thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We have our first question that's going to be made available to all the commissioners. Technically speaking, Cheryl Clark will be starting it. Cheryl, as we've said, is going to have an opponent, so we're going to back up just a little bit. We're going to let Cheryl Clark answer the question first, and then her opponent will get it second, and then we'll start here. If you choose to pass, that's fine. There's no rules. You get extra points if you talk. But here's the question for you, Cheryl Clark. Your thoughts, please, on fracking and how it would affect your district.
It's funny because I heard the word fracking and it scared me to death when I found out, because I heard it, didn't know what it was, went and investigated to see what it was. And with fracking, they drill down or out and then down, or it can go, you can start here and it can go in, like, I'm not sure, 4 or 5 mile radius. They use water to do that. They use 100 million gallons of water. That water is then contaminated. You can never use that water again. They are planning to put that into an empty oil well, and then if that oil well were to spring a leak and it got into the deep aquifer, then we could pollute all of our water. I don't think we've looked at it hard enough or long enough to see what is actually going to happen to our groundwater. I'm very protective of our groundwater. I think that we need clean water to live, and so fracking is, to me, very scary because I don't think they've done enough research on it to understand or to make sure that these old oil deposits won't leak and the water that's contaminated get into your groundwater, and then you'll not have drinking water. So.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Now, Jerry, would you like to respond?
Yes.
You have 90 seconds, please.
I spent a lot of time in Wyoming prior to 1976, so uranium exploration, gas, oil is a big thing out there. And as Cheryl said, there is not enough education in the state of Michigan. This is relatively new. They could start on your neighbor's property, end up drilling onto your property, undermining your wells, any other mineral rights you have. Second of all, there's not a lot of attorneys in the state of Michigan that have a lot of background in this. These folks are pros. They're going to come in. They're going to try and sell you a good bill of sale to get those mineral rights so they can undertake this exploration. If you're going to think about this, find an attorney that has a background in fracking or exploration in general. Make sure what they're selling you or asking you to take part in is well documented. Make sure that you take a water sample on your property, hold it in reserve, take another water sample after these folks move out, and make that comparison, because it's going to have a devastating effect on private property.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Gary, would you like to respond to this? You don't
Yes.
have to. Okay.
Basically, when it comes to fracking, I'm kind of at the other end of the spectrum. I have a tendency to look at things in a practical manner. I see what's happening all over the world. I see shortly where we will have problems getting oil and gas from the Middle East, and we're going to become very, very dependent on our own energy supplies. I actually believe there's been a lot of research done on fracking, not necessarily here in Michigan. And I also know that when the DEQ, who opposes basically everything, and the EPA comes in and says that fracking basically is safe, basically that's where they come from. I mean, the Sierra Club takes one view, they take another view. If you're being approached, I agree with Jerry that you probably should look into this before you sign away your mineral rights and make sure that you understand exactly what you're doing. But I just look at things in a practical manner, not just fracking. You know, I look at wind energy and solar energy. I don't have a problem with either, but make sure you understand that windmills generate electricity at 4 times the cost of coal. And that's going to drive your light bills right through the ceiling. So make sure that you really pay attention to what we're doing here in this country. I'm not against wind energy, I'm just saying it's very, very costly. And the state of Michigan lost 1 million jobs. And high-priced energy will keep more jobs out of this state than attract them. So that's all I have to say on this issue.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving along to Dial Henning, would you like to address this?
Surely.
All right. you
Is it all right
ladies-
if we stay seated?
Whatever you want.
Otherwise, I think it'll be...
Make yourself at home.
Thank you.
Yeah.
First thing I'd say is that certainly the question about signing any leases is very important. I don't know if our area is going to be that hot compared to some areas, but Michigan State University Extension has some staff and some publications that are excellent to help people decide if and how they want to make a contract to be signed, so that you're not taken by the people that keep running around the county and the state trying to sign people up. In terms of the issue itself, it's not really a county issue. As Gary said, the federal government and our DEQ are very involved. I believe the DEQ overregulates, if anything. They're not majorly concerned. They do find from time to time things where companies have not done what they need to do, and there are very stiff penalties and costs connected with cleanups involved with that. I think we need to take what we have, make it available, and try to become energy independent.
Okay, thank you very much. David Eady, would you like to address it? Pass? Okay.
No, that's David Eady.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
That's okay,
Lenny
Lenny.
Schneider.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No. And just to clarify one of the comments as far as a county issue, talking about county government. And you'll find out as the meeting goes on, and we can answer a lot of it. And you've heard already how complex county government is. When it comes to planning and zoning authorities granted to the local governments, those are granted to cities, townships, and villages, not the county. So the county does not have any authority in this matter. That's not to say that, like every resident here, we don't have an issue and a concern and a quality of life. But if you're wondering why you haven't seen the county organize or do something, that's why you have towns or townships or cities or villages. So speak with your local officials about your concerns there. Personally, I'm for energy exploration, as we've heard about from the domestic end of it. Getting tired of seeing young men and women that we raise in our communities go off to some oil field somewhere. And again, as a police officer, I know what it's like to put your life on the line on the street, and I've unfortunately lost a lot of friends over the years. But I can't imagine not being in your community when you do that, and being in some four-way land and wondering what are all the ulterior motives. So I'm all for doing what we can to make ourselves strong from an energy perspective. Having said that, there are quality issues that affect individual property owners, and so I do agree with the exploration of making sure that you deal with people who have strong backgrounds in this. Dave?
Oh, thank you. Okay, David Eady, please, now.
Thank you. Most everything I could think of saying about this, I think, has been said. I've been to a couple of forums on fracking and trying to get some information myself. I feel pretty confident that the DEQ is kind of on top of this with some of the rules from what I've heard. I too I'm in favor of exploration, trying to keep our energy local, so to speak, if possible. Again, one of the big things that was brought up in a couple of the forums I went to was what everyone said about making sure you know what you're signing, because if you sign the wrong thing, it could be devastating to you down the road. So I guess I can't think of anything else to add at this
Okay.
point, but thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Now, Ian?
Yeah, I think everything's pretty much been stated by my fellow commissioners, but one of the things that really worries me about this, I guess, is the residual effect of what's going to come out of that. And by that, I really mean, I think that there's a strong possibility that we could be experiencing some real a grab at our personal property rights. And I think that's an issue that we really need to give some real thought to when we start looking at whether it's townships or counties or state, when we start looking at passing these zoning laws and mining ordinances to react to fracking one way or the other, I think we should be very mindful of individual property rights and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. All right, we're on to the next question. We will start with Gary if he chooses to take it. And the question is, what is the most important issue facing the county that the county commissioners can address, and what is your plan to address it? Ta-da.
I think I touched on it earlier, but there's one thing I'd like to say before I answer that question, and I forgot this when I basically was standing up introducing myself. I'm also the chairman of the Board of Commissioners, and I was elected by my fellow commissioners, and I thank them for doing that, and I have been this chair for the last 3.5 years. So to answer that question, the real issues facing the Board of Commissioners right now will come from additional legislation. We are facing some problems right now in the water resource area where the state of Michigan, through the DEQ, is actually asking the county to expand basically jurisdiction over more and more individual property rights and people's water rights. And I think maybe it's time we took a stand, but this is going to start coming down. They're basically following the EPA rules and regulations. They seem to want to keep control over their own water, but it looks like the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers basically are going to take that away from them. We just opened up our solid waste plan, and we found that solid waste plan that basically we were looking to add some transfer stations. Wasn't in the plan. One of our haulers asked us to do that. The DEQ approved it, then says, hey, the county doesn't have it in their solid waste plan. So what we did was we opened it up. We opened it up for a couple other reasons too, because St. Clair County actually wants our garbage. And because we don't have a landfill, we export all of our garbage, and that was nice to have them ask for it. But saying that, that's basically some of the things that's really going to become a problem. But getting back to that transfer station, usually in the process, that transfer station usually included local government. We found out now that basically if you have the property and you meet all the qualifications and you're on a Class A road, basically you can apply to the DEQ or the county without any permissions from the townships in those particular areas. So there's some things that are being done, and people are losing their property rights and they don't even realize it. So,
All right, thank you. Dial, would you like to address this?
I'm going to take a different tack. I think our biggest job and our ongoing challenge has to do with our financial situation, our budget, especially our general fund budget. We've cut back over the last 5 years from almost $22 million in general fund to 18. We've cut our staff from roughly 490 to 380. That's in approximate numbers, and gone to a lot of part-time positions as part of that. There is still a high demand for services. Our county is aging. There are lots of demands in that area. And so even as the economy has recovered a little bit, not much, but a little bit, at least it stopped the downward trend. but it's not for a long time going to provide us income to do anything to restore services or anything to adjust services unless we do cuts in other areas. So that's my none.
Okay. Lenny, would you like to address it?
Yeah, myself and Dial have obviously been doing a lot of these together because we're on the same page on this one, although none of us, I don't know, here are going to disagree with what anybody says because we've got a huge plate of challenges, and I agree with Gary's, and I think I'm going to agree with everybody's, but from my perspective, it is the financials. It has to do with the fact that our particular level of government is funded in great part by property values and then by dollars from state and from federal government. And those aren't gifts from them, by the way. They mandate what programs they want to have provided to their citizenry, and then we provide it locally at a countywide level rather than that coming out of Washington or coming out of Lansing. The dollars are supposed to flow with the mandates, but they don't. And we've all seen how the federal government's cutting back, the state's government's cutting back. Our property values have taken a decline, and like Dial says, but there is an anticipation for us to continue. This is where I get the opportunity to give kudos to a lot of our elected officials and department heads. I've chaired personnel for the 12th year now that I've been on the county, and when we saw this coming, we've been doing long-range forecasting for quite a few years, working with the University of Michigan, working with Michigan State, working with Oakland County, working with anybody who has resources. We do multi-year budgeting, which is rare. And it was vital to be able to see this train coming down the track, to be able to work with our elected officials and our department heads and tell them we are a conservative board and we run our county government the way our neighbors and friends would want us to. You live within your means. And if your means are cut, then you got to make it happen. By the same token, county government is very systemic. Everything is tied in together, and you have to be very careful of unintended consequences if you start cutting things that could have negative consequences and you end up being penny-wise and pound-foolish. So all of the cuts and reductions that we made, and we made a 22% reduction in our workforce over a 5-year period of time. We did so in a thoughtful manner that was not overnight, took several years seeing this coming, and we gave each department head and elected official the same speech. The county government is not going to look the same when we come out of this in 5 years. You need to work with us and help make sure that we are still functional. And that's exactly what we've done, but that challenge remains, and we'll continue to work with our department heads. You have to have good relationships and smart people to make that happen, and no egos help too.
Sounds great. Okay. David Eady.
I don't know if I was going to go on about some unfunded mandates and things, but I think Lenny's pretty much covered most of that. That is an issue that we do have in a shrinking government and shrinking financials such as we have. There's still things that we have to do that, are unfunded mandates that we're required to do. We are hopeful. I think we're going to get some more revenue sharing this year that we weren't getting before, and so that's going to help us a little bit, but I think that's about it for me.
Okay. Ian Kemp.
Well, I'll kind of lay it out there the way I see it. I really think that the silver lining, if you will, of the last recession or the last 7 years that we've gone through is the right sizing of government, or at least an irresponsible government. And I believe that the county commission has been extremely responsible. As you've heard, we've cut the staff 22%. We did it with almost no layoffs. It was all through attrition. We went from a $22 million budget to an $18 million budget. We didn't raise your taxes. And I really think that the biggest challenge, as we've already heard, I agree with my fellow commissioners, is that the state of Michigan is just pushing and pushing more mandates down to the county level. They do it in our jails, they do it in our health department. Unfunded mandates are supposed to be illegal. However, they have a number of ways of doing it. They take these mandates and they say, well, if you don't do it, we'll do it, but you really don't want that. or they just say, well, this isn't a new mandate, this is just an expansion of an old mandate. So state mandates are very, very troublesome, and they're shalls. They're not something that we have a decision on. However, we have talked in the past on some of these mandates to even looking at getting our prosecutor. Well, actually, we have gotten our prosecutor involved in some, and there is a possibility that a county, maybe Lapeer County, maybe another county, might be looking at taking the state to court to get a final decision on some of these unfunded mandates. That's the biggest issue with our budget going forth.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to pass it on down to Jerry. You got any thoughts on this, Jerry?
As I started out, I've spent 34 years in local government. The federally mandated services is nothing new. We started dealing with state revenue sharing loss and federal revenue loss in the 90s. Here's an area where I firmly believe we can do better. As most of the commissioners have said, they've taken a responsibility in cutting staff, but we need to do better. We need to find ways to do more for less. Respectfully, we also need to enhance the resolution. People above us at the state and federal level need to know that we're not happy with this, that we're going to keep passing resolutions until they get it in their heads that they need to start working with us as people. Because if this continues, we're not going to be able to support local government, and it is the backbone of America.
Great, thank you. Okay, Cheryl?
A county commissioner, our main job is that we're fiscally responsible for the county. We're the moms and dads. We hold the purse strings to all the departments. We decide how much money they get. We decide what they spend it on. And I think we do a very good job. And I think my fellow commissioners have said everything that we have worked on. I'm going to go off and talk about a little bit something different that we really don't have anything to deal with, but it's a huge concern for our county. Last year, our welfare was at 20% of our population. 20% of our populations were going to the Department of Human Services and on welfare, cash assistance, something in that department. And that to me is very scary when 20% of our population isn't working and we're supporting them. So I think that's something that we need to look at is first jobs and how to get people off welfare and able to support themselves.
Okay, Cheryl, thank you very much. Now the next question, we're going to start with Dial. And that question is this: where has or will the county improved under your watch, and where have you cut waste? You can answer or pass.
I want to answer that one.
Okay.
I don't think our county has had a lot of waste. We've made a lot of cuts, but it's not really been waste. Our county ranks 5th in the whole state in the percentage of property tax millage that we get. 5th from that's the worst, or the lowest, or the best, depending on how you feel about it. But it provides the least amount of services. So we've had to struggle with that since 1985. So we've never been a fat organization. But what we did to cut was to, in effect, ask people to find places they could give up positions. We asked them to move a full-time person into a part-time person because it saved a tremendous amount, especially through health care costs. We did some combining of departments, like the planning department disappeared completely. The Parks Department got rolled under our Buildings and Grounds manager. We contracted with St. Clair County for some help with executive services and veterans and an equalization. So we did a lot to try to downsize, maybe not to get the fat away, but to make do with what we had in the way of resources, which is what you have to do.
Lenny Schneider.
Yeah, like I say, myself and Dial have obviously been doing this together too long. Agree with everything there, including the comment about the fact that we've had to go well beyond waste and find efficiencies. good ways of doing things, but find an even better way. And I'll just take this minute to talk about the parks, for example, because you probably wonder if you didn't follow that and it kind of bounced all around the ball, or geez, they cut the parks and then the parks are open, and you know, what happened with all of that? We cut the Parks Department to the point that we eliminated parks, including a parks director. Again, that culture of working with department heads and elected officials, we had the department head from community mental health come to us and say, I think I have a solution to the parks. This has not been done anywhere in the state. This was another way we were creative. He said, I've got money at the federal level and at the state level training to train a lot of the handicapped individuals, and I think we can use them within a limited role, and along with that gets coaching. We can actually give these people a better quality rather than just putting bolts on a screw, and we might be able to open our county parks. We were able to open both of our county parks up at a fraction of the cost, and we didn't hire another parks director. We just passed that responsibility on to an existing department head. So that was a good success story.
Great, thank you. David Eady, would you like to address this?
Sure. Lenny keeps taking my thunder, though. I was totally going to talk about collaboration with the parks. But collaboration in a lot of different ways. We've done things in the county, with St. Clair County, with our equalization department, with the parks. I think we've done so much to try to shrink things like that. Through attrition, taking full-time employees, and maybe just making a part-time employee in the department to try to help out to save money. But I think that's probably one of the biggest ways we've shrunk our finances is with collaboration.
Great, thank you. Ian, would you like to address it?
Yeah, I would. As Dave said, our fellow commissioners have answered it very well. So I'm going to have to go way back to my first couple of years just to find something that they haven't addressed yet. But one of the things we did is we privatized a number of the areas of the county. We privatized the lawn mowing services. We privatized the mechanic services. We privatized the kitchen and the jail. All of those have worked out very well for us. I think they've saved the county just numerous dollars over the years. And so a number of those areas where we felt that we could privatize, we did, and it's worked out extremely well. We also have the collaborations with our fellow counties. We were actually collaborating with neighboring governments before it was the dashboard of the state of Michigan, so I was pretty proud of that.
All right, thank you. Now, Jerry Edwards, you don't hold office yet, but if and when you do, how will the county improve under your watch?
As the commissioners explained, I think for the most part the county is doing a good job. I still think there's room for improvement. I still think we need to exercise a lot more creativity in the area of privatization. But one of the things that I want to do is enhance the programs for our senior citizens. I want to look at programs and enhancement of programs for human trafficking. I want to look at programs to help and work with the Sheriff's Department on the elimination of heroin in this county, which is getting epidemic. And there's all kinds of creative ways that we can do more for less.
Okay, Cheryl Clark, you're up.
Thank you. When I first got elected, our child care budget was going up $100,000 every year, and we couldn't afford that, so we brought all the human services in, and that's where we started the first collaboration. I agree with everything they said. I think we, as county commissioners, have done a tremendous job in cutting corners, cutting places, and in collaborating and working together. The human service area has been amazing because we work very close together. We don't protect our turf. Everyone seems to try to share information. We have started a lot of prevention programs to keep kids out of probate court, because every time you can prevent somebody from going to court, it saves you about $22. Prevention, I think, is a huge thing for us. And the KIND program, I took over the director of that 12 years ago, actually today. That program was works with at-risk kids, and it's a huge saving to keep them out of probate court. The director left, the secretary left, and we couldn't make payroll, so I said I'd take it for 12 months or for 6 months at 20 hours a week and get it back on board. We're back on board. We serve about 200 kids a year. We also work with kids that have dropped out of school. We help them get their GED, their diploma, and get them on a career path. We had 72 kids in the last 3 years. We only lost 9 kids that did not get their diploma or their GED. 3 totally just didn't do it. 1 went to prison, 1 moved away, and 4 of them couldn't get their GED, but we were able to get them into job placements. So it's a huge savings for us when we can get these kids that would have been on welfare into the system where they're working, going to college, and getting a degree and being active, and my time's up.
All right, thank you. Gary Roy, would you like to talk to us?
There's a couple more areas that my commissioners, basically what we've done, we eliminated our housing department. Under housing, we also had soil and sediment. We eliminated our housing department by actually turning that over to HDC out of Carroll. So they administer the housing grants and the housing improvements for the low income and different things. So we eliminated that. We moved soil and sediment. Basically, there were 5 people in that department. Basically, we had 1 full-time inspector. We had 1 part-time. The 1 part-time went to Oakland County, was offered a better job. We moved 1 secretary, and we eliminated that department. We turned it over to the health department, the soil and sediment portion of it, where we actually have also over there we had sanitarians. Those are the people that come out and inspect for septics and everything else on people's properties. So we made a determination, why couldn't they also do the soil and sediment piece? Why just send 1 man to do one thing, another man to do another thing? So we actually combined those 2. We certified the sanitarians in soil and sediment. So basically we reduced our cost by using 1 person to do 2 or 3 different functions. So that's a couple other areas that we've saved a lot of money for the county and for the taxpayers. It's allowed us to continue. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Okay, again for all of you, starting with Lenny, right? Okay. Do you believe in the Tea Party principles of limited government, free markets, and fiscal responsibility?
Yes.
Thank you. Your time is up. Okay. How about you, David?
I got to say yes. Again, it goes back to I think I go back to the first time I sat in on our budget with everybody, and I don't want to say what I said, but because it was just so difficult to hear all these department heads come in and ask for different things that they needed, and they need, but yet you have just this certain amount that you can pass around. And it was probably the most difficult thing that I've been through at the county, is going through our budget process, being so fiscally stringent, I guess, to try to make everything work with the little bit of money that we have during the times that we were going through, especially in the last few years when things were on such a downslide. There's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Things are starting to move up a little bit, but there's still a long way to go. So.
All right, thank you. Ian, did you want to talk about this?
Absolutely. I consider myself a very proud Republican, and I do subscribe very heavily to those terms. But also, one of the interesting things is that when we downsized the government, when we downsized the county government, when we dropped it from 22 to 18, and went, we lost 22% of our labor force. I went around to a lot of the public meetings and the gatherings and asked the people in the crowd, do you feel like you have good quality county services, or do you feel like you're lacking in county services? And overwhelmingly, the response that I got was that the people, the citizens of Lapeer County really felt that they had, even after all the cuts, had good county services. And the question is, then what does that tell us about where we were when we had a $22 million budget? I really think that goes to the core of your question.
Okay, sounds great. Jerry, you want to go for it? Do you remember the question okay? Our Tea Party principles.
I think the three principles are paramount to what is required for good government. It's also the cornerstone of what we need to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the general public. That is not only our responsibility, it is our duty. As a Republican conservative, those have been the principles that I have used in the 34 years I've worked with people, and I will continue to work with people under those principles.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl, you're up.
Yes. It's funny because I remember when Dave said on the first budget hearing and we got done and he said, Cheryl, I think I'm going to be sick. And it was tough. Was the worst year. We had to cut so many places. And it's interesting because I think maybe as a mom, sometimes we're easy to say no than sometimes the dads. And so I've offered sometimes to do the cutting and they've all said, no, you can't do that. So, but I can't stress more that if you're going to run for office, you have to be conservative and make sure that it's fiscally sound. But you can't be so conservative that you don't ever spend money, because sometimes you do need to spend money. So with that, I will turn it over to Gary.
Okay, thank you. Gary, you want to go for it?
Yes, I totally believe in those principles.
Okay, 90 seconds. You got it? You did it?
Did it.
Thank you.
There it is.
Wrapped it up in a bow.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, a few comments, though. We
Okay.
do need government to do some things for some people. So we need to at least provide the minimum amount needed to provide the correct services. Unfortunately, given the example that our federal government sets, you wouldn't believe that most states and local governments have to balance their budgets, and they do. We do. Certainly in the area of fiscal responsibility, my comment would be even more absolute. We have a terrible example in our federal government. Yeah. Something has to happen there or our country has gone down. Okay. And third, in terms of free enterprise, I believe in that, but I also believe there has to be some regulation to make sure there's not monopoly power so that we don't have competition. Because that's the other thing we absolutely have to have, fair and open and free competition.
Okay. Thank you very much. David, guess what? You have the first question this time. Okay. Your opinion, oh, it's going to be hard. Your opinion, please, on the 1.8 mil proposed tax increase. Is it really necessary, or are there other ways to repair our roads?
I know we have to do something with our roads. They're a mess. I'm not so sure I agree with the road commission millage at this point. I guess the biggest thing I worry about is what is the state going to do in regards to raising, either the income tax or taxes on a gallon of gas with the prices we're paying now. I saw on the news the other day gas prices could go up to $5 a gallon. Are we going to be taxed on top of that even more from the state level? So yes, I know we have to do something with our roads. I totally agree we need to do something with the roads. But I'm hoping that maybe at the state level they can do something that to make sure that the money goes where it needs to go and that it gets put into the roads like it's supposed to be, and maybe that's a better solution than taxing. I guess I'm worried that we may get taxed twice at this point.
So are you against that 1.8 mil?
At this point, I think I am. Until
Okay.
I would like to know more what's going to happen at the state level first before I would agree with something like that.
Ian, you're on.
Well, first of all, I don't think that the ballot language that you're currently being proposed is going to be the final ballot language once it works its way through the county commission. But in saying that, I think that the real problem with the road commission is that we did not always have I think we have a good road commission now. I think we have a very conservative road commission now. We did not always have that. The past road commissions, and I mean immediate past road commissions, have allowed a $4 million unfunded long-term liability in the road commission. That has to be addressed. I don't know that the 1.8 will address that. I think we do need to, as Commissioner Eady said, we do need to find out if the state is going to do anything at all. The word we're getting is that when they go back into session after the elections, they're going to address road funding. But that $4 million unfunded long-term liability is huge, and we have to address that as a county. So there needs to be some sort, and I just heard Commissioner Roy say it's more than that, and he's probably right. Well, it depends on how you look at it, but it's as high as 13 million. But the conservative number, giving them the benefit of the doubt, is I think 4.6. So there is going to be some of that 1.8 that is going to supplant, if you will, some of that long-term liability. There's just no other way it can happen.
Okay. Jerry, are you ready for this? Let it rip.
Takes a while to get this mic back. The Road Commission's pursuit of a millage is becoming a broken record. I spend every day of my work week on the roads in Lapeer County, and very few do not get traveled. Our secondary roads are in excellent shape based on the winter that we had. Second of all, the millage would go to our primary roads, and our primary roads are in good shape too. I think the Road Commission should have their feet held to the fire. If you're going to spend money on roads, fix them right the first time. Use the material that's outlined in the engineering standards so we don't have to go back and repair them every year, and you have to have a millage to do it.
Cheryl.
I would be in favor of putting a road millage on a ballot. I'm not in favor of putting the wording that they have there on the ballot. There's nothing there that states it has to go for the roads. Back in 1985, the townships took money from the county and they said they would put it on roads. On the ballot language, there was nothing that went for roads. And so since 85, all 18 townships except one, I believe, has a new township hall. So for me to support that, it would have to be that first, it's all going to go to the roads, and it's not going to be supplanting money that they already spend on the roads. And that way, if the people vote it in, at least our roads will be repaired.
Thank you. Gary Roy.
The road millage is something that the board will have to consider. I'm going to put it on the agenda for the week after next for the Road Commission to come and present their millage proposal to the Board of Commissioners. At that particular time, the Board of Commissioners will take a look at the wording, and we will suggest changes to the wording of the millage. I will tell you this, I have sat on Region 5 for the last 8 years. Region 5 planning actually does the transportation piece, which we call PESA, and we do the PESA studies of the roads in Lapeer County. The roads in Lapeer County have continued to deteriorate for the last 8 years that I've sat on that particular board. I've also I am the designated commissioner to the Road Commission. The Road Commission has made a lot of mistakes in the past, but the biggest problem we have is the roads, not necessarily the roads. We have a real problem with bridges. Our bridges are in horrible disrepair. The load limits continue to drop every year. Some of the roads now have bridges on them that the school buses no longer can cross. They're going a mile out of their way around to the other side in that particular road to pick up children. It's not just roads, it's county bridges. The County Road Commission gets all of their money from the state gasoline tax. They get no other money from property taxes. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. 100%. What? well, some license plate fees, but basically that's where the money comes from. It comes from license plate fees and it comes from the state gasoline tax. So we're going to have to take a hard look at this and see what we have to do about these roads.
Okay, thank you very much.
A lot of
Kyle?
what I would say has been said, but I guess I'm not sure, frankly, right now how I will vote. There is a need, I believe. I am concerned with the fact that we don't know what the state is doing and won't know in time to decide this millage question. I am concerned that the money actually gets spent on road projects and doesn't get gobbled up on these debts that have been accrued. So I'm going to be open and listening. One of the thoughts that has crossed my mind is instead of a period of 6 years, I might advocate a period of 2 years so we can actually see, one, what happens at the state, and two, what happens locally.
Dial just took my thunder.
And we didn't talk.
Yeah, yeah, two issues, so I'll take that second one first. I agree with some of the comments. I understand the Road Commission has got a 6-year plan, which might be a 7-year plan, which could be a 10-year plan, and I'll accept that. It's going to take a while. What I won't accept is whenever there's a new millage, having a lengthy term, especially in lieu of two issues, the credibility issue, which has been raised, and the dual taxation issue, which has been raised. Because of those two issues, I won't approve a 6-year millage. And I don't know where I will go then, depending on the wording, and that's why it goes before the county board. On anybody that wants to put something countywide before the voters has to get the county board's approval on it. And I think a lot of us want to make sure that voters have their say. So, you know, we want to err on the side of giving the voters the opportunity, but we also want to make sure that we can weed out some mistakes along the way, and I think the 6-year term is a mistake. Above and beyond that, I think there are some needs for our roads.
Okay. All right. Actually, Ian, you don't get this one because it's for Gary, but you're going to get the next one. You'll be first. Gary Roy, can you please tell us what DDAs and TFFAs are, and how do they take taxpayer money?
DDAs and TIFA districts are special designated districts within a community. For example, like Emily City has a DDA, Lapeer has a DDA. These DDAs were set up 20 years ago, 25 years ago. They were supposed to be for a short period of time. They were set up by the states to help some of the cities and villages and different things actually fix up their downtown areas. Unfortunately, what happens when something's set up, it never goes away. So they've basically been able to continue with these DDA districts and TIFAs. TIFAs are a little different because they're industrial areas. And basically, when you talk about capture, what they do is basically the monies, for example, ad valorem taxes that's raised in those particular districts. Ad valorem taxes go to the county, their county taxes, to support the sheriff's department, the veterans, and all the county services we provide. They capture those particular taxes and they keep them within the DDAs and TIFA districts. They stay there. We have taken a position as a county board, basically will not allow any expansion of any new TIFAs. We will not allow the expansions of, for example, a single piece of property if the cities and villages continue to capture extra voted millage. These DDAs, a lot of the DDAs were capturing senior millage. They were capturing Medicaid, the villages for the Medicare facility. They were capturing all the extra voted millage that people expected to go to those specific regions. I hope that helps you somewhat understand what a TIF and a DDA district is, how it operates, and where it comes from. But now what happens is if there's going to be a district, for example, in the upcoming election, is going to continue to capture extra vote and millage, it has to state it on the ballot. For example, I don't know if it's Otter Lake or one of them is still going to try to collect senior millage. They're going to collect senior millage, and maybe it's Columbiaville is going to collect senior millage. So it actually states it on the ballot that Columbiaville has elected to continue to keep that particular monies that's generated within that DDA district in Columbiaville. Does that help explain it to everybody what a DDA and a TIFA district is? The county, we lose about $660,000 a year in capture to DDAs and TIFAs. Money that you thought was going to county services.
Can county commissioners deny them those dollars?
No.
Can they dissolve DDAs? Who
No.
dissolves a DDA? If,
The DDAs right now?
yeah, could they
There's
be?
been some legislation, or started legislation, to try to stop the DDAs and TIFAs, or not TIFAs per se, but DDAs from capturing extra vote and millage. The only people that can really stop this is your state legislators. But you know, you got some awful big counties and some awful big cities. And for example, Kent County losing $8 million. But Grand Rapids has a lot of power over there in Lansing, so I
Okay,
hope that answers your question.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go back down to Ian, please. And this one has an exclamation mark after it, and it's 2 words. It says the roundabout. Is there a better way or more economical way to fix this intersection? And can we use this money for other road projects? Who would pay for any cost overruns?
Well, before I get to that, if I could really quick, I just want to touch on what Gary said. You asked the question of who can end the DDAs. The DDAs all have a term limit on them. When they're term limited, the local municipality either renews them or doesn't renew them. So besides, Chairman Roy was not wrong in saying this, the legislatures, but the local municipalities, when they're term limited, do have the opportunity to end those DDAs and TIFAs. No. Emily City just renewed one for 20 years. It's just truly a cash cow for the local municipalities, and it does cost all of the taxpayers of Lapeer County, because those are funds that are not going for what they're earmarked for originally. They're staying within that district, and therefore it costs everyone else just a little bit more, or they get a little bit less. But I will go on to your question now. And to be honest, I don't know the answer to your question. The road funding is not something, as far as individual projects, that we have a voice in, or that quite frankly we study. It's not in my district. I don't know what that roundabout is going to cost. You know, roundabouts are kind of like politicians. People either love them or they hate them. There's no real middle ground. So I really don't know the answer.
Well, let me kind of put a PS on this, though. What about stop signs? I could make you one. Just a thought. I mean, as opposed to a roundabout.
You know, I guess that's very true. And there are places that I'm not. Again, that's on the other side of the county. I've not. Last time I went through the intersection, I really didn't think about a roundabout there. There are places that I do personally think roundabouts work very well. I don't know if that warrants one. I, quite frankly, kind of doubt it.
They're kind of fashionable. Yeah. Okay, let's go down to Jerry. He's shaking his head yes.
I don't know for the life of me why this county needs a roundabout. I got trapped in the one down in Oakland County for about 2 weeks. They say it's a European traffic control device or mechanism. I don't see any benefit except it ties you up longer. If I come to a stop sign and I turn right after looking both ways, I've done what I was supposed to as a responsible driver. I think the constituents in Deerfield, Marathon, and Rich Township would like to know, if we're going to spend money, why don't we finish the M24 improvements from Pratt Road to the county line to benefit all of the people of Lapeer County? What happened to the Wilder Road extension that would get people off Fish Lake to M21, to the Wilder Road Exchange quicker? Why do we keep half-assing projects, coming up with new stuff that we don't need?
Tell us what you really think. Okay, Cheryl, you're up.
I think roundabouts are very dangerous. I've been in
Thank
some
you.
of them, and I am totally against it. But to kind of answer that question, the federal government, if they give you money, you have to spend it on that project. If you have an overrun, then the municipality that is doing that project would have to pay that. So,
And whose district is this in? Yeah, okay. All right, I know you'll have more to say. All right, Gary, no. Okay, Gary.
Unfortunately, I don't know that the county commission has any control over that roundabout or the county road commission, because that's an MDOT project. I agree with Jerry that basically the money could probably be spent a lot of better places. But for example, when the road commission finished Old 21, when they repaved it, you notice there was bicycle paths put on the roads. When you rebuild a Class A road and basically you want any federal dollars to help you do that, well, guess what? You have to put in a bicycle path. So we got a bicycle path. I don't believe a roundabout is needed in Lapeer County, and I believe the money could go someplace else, because let's face it, makes no difference county road commission or MDOT. It's all taxpayer dollars. In fact, I actually believe in four-way stops. They work better. So.
Okie dokie. Dial, you're on.
And I don't know a whole lot about this, again, because it's really not a county commissioner issue. I know what's going on. I know where the roads are. I know it's designed especially where you have more than crossroads, but you have like 3 roads coming together so that it promotes traffic to flare out. I've driven them abroad. I've driven them in Washington, D.C. They sort of work when people know what to do with them. But there's going to be a learning curve there, probably several accidents before it happens. I don't know if it's a good idea, and I don't know about who's really putting the money, but I'm sure it is tied to a specific project, and even our local road commission won't have any real control over that. It's either accepted or taken.
Okay, Lenny, is this a shovel-ready job? Roundabout?
Again, that would be a question for the road commission. I don't know if it's shovel ready or not. I was just going to say I ride a motorcycle, so I think roundabouts are fun, but I'm not asking you to pay for my funds. So I don't understand why it needs to be there either, because I could do that in a big round parking lot. But you know, sometimes stop signs are more effective, and it depends on individual applications. Sometimes a roundabout has actually been shown, as compared to a stop sign, to move more traffic through it. This application, I don't understand. This application doesn't need a stop sign. What it needs is the speeds to slow down prior to that fork. You don't need to construct. Again, it would cost a fraction. It would almost cost as much as your stop sign to put a speed reduction sign up. But I think this is a classic tale of strings attached, and this is what's broken in our society, that the money, we talk about this all the time from the county board, the money that you get from the federal government, the money that you get from the state government always has all kinds of conditions attached to it. And I mean, look, when they redid 24 a couple years ago, leaving the city, the ridiculous amount of signs that they had, because that was their standard, you know, and it darn near blinded you at nighttime. Not every state has to follow some of those standards. I don't know why we do, but it's taxpayers' money at the end of the day, even if it is federal dollars or state dollars.
Okay, David, is there anyone you can suggest we could contact if we do have an objection to it? I mean, first of all, what's your opinion, and then...
Well, I guess my opinion is kind of what everyone else has said. I really don't understand the need at that intersection. I think speed, if you're on Davison Road, is, you know, if you slowed down there, it would probably make things a whole lot easier. I can understand the way that I can't, whatever the name of the road is, it comes out on the angle there. well, the one that goes off Genesee, thank you. You know, the way that comes in, it's kind of odd, so I mean, I guess I can understand why they're thinking that intersection might work there, but yeah. So I think speed would probably be the best thing to do, and put up a speed limit sign would be a whole lot cheaper than building a roundabout. As far as who to contact, again, I guess it would be, you know, Mike Bosky, the supervisor in Elba. I know he's actually been to a few meetings with MDOT and the Road Commission in regards to that. I'm also I have the two-thirds of Elba Township, the southern two-thirds. So I know Mike has been to some of those meetings, and maybe if anyone has any questions, if you contacted him, he might be able to point you in the right direction.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going back down to Jerry. How are we doing on time? Okay. Okay. You ready? Here we go. I got a better one. What are your qualifications for this position? This is for you, by the way, this is for you and for Cheryl Clark.
I've worked with the county, townships, villages, for 34 years. I've been a prior elected official, so I'm no stranger to this arena. My qualifications are very simple. I've worked with the people for 34 years. I have a history of trying to get their voice to the surface, both at the township, village level, and I will do that at the county level, because it's all about people.
Thank you. Okay, Cheryl.
I guess my qualifications, I've been here for 26 years. I think that Lapeer County is one of the best counties in the state financially. When we go to talk to other commissioners, we're amazed sometimes at some of the things that they don't have that we do have, and some of the things they do have that we don't have. And so I would stand on my record as a county commissioner for 26 years.
Thank you. All right. Gary, we're going to start with you this time. What guarantees are in place to assure that the road millage money is spent only on road improvements, both at the county and township levels? And this is going to be our last question of the evening.
At this point, I don't think there are any guarantees. But the Road Commission has not been to the County Board of Commissioners. There will be guarantees, I assure you of that, after they meet with this board. There'll have to be some guarantees. Some of my townships have objections because they don't feel the splits are right, so that I actually represent the people in my district. And I go out to the township meetings and I ask the people in my district and in the townships what they feel about this particular millage. I mean, I know the Road Commission's been around to most of them. Most of them said, okay, that's fine, we'll support putting it on the ballot, but they won't endorse it. I haven't seen anybody really endorse this millage, stand behind it, and help it pass. So basically, we'll have to wait and see what they bring to the Board of Commissioners, not this week, but next week.
Do you stand by the fact that you want there to be a guarantee?
A guarantee?
A guarantee that the money is strictly for road improvements.
Well, I'd like to see a guarantee. The biggest problem is we all here, and you understand government. Of all groups, you probably understand it more than anything else. The biggest problem is you could take new money, and you've seen the federal government do it, and we've seen the state government do it, and they'll guarantee that this money is only spent on this. You remember when we had the lottery, and we had the monies coming from the lottery, and that was going to be all spent on education? But what happened was when that money came in, the lottery money came in, what they did is they took the same amount that was going to educate out and dumped it back to the general fund. So to guarantee that this money be spent only on roads is one thing. I guess we have to make sure that the other money that was coming in going to townships continue to do that for the roads. So we'll have to see where that's at.
Dial Henning.
I think Gary hit it. We could try to put language. We haven't seen, remember, the real final draft. we've only seen a draft that's circulated in the community. So we're not 100% sure what it's going to say. Even if we can make sure that it's sort of crafted to sound like, it will not be an easy process to make sure that, as Gary's pointing out, that the money is not used to supplant other monies. So it's a tough nut to crack, even when you say that's what's going to happen.
Lenny Schneider, can we ask you to ask for that guarantee?
Yes, you can ask me to ask for that guarantee. And I have a question for you. Are we going to get a closing remark, or is this going to be our last time to give a shout out to our
Do
loved
we
ones?
get a closing remark, everybody? Do you want one? Okay, we'll give you a minute.
Okay, well then I'll wait till then to...
Okay.
I guess I agree with everybody else. You know, I represent the people in my districts, and I know I had 2 townships that agreed to have the road commission put this on the ballot, but I had 1 township that didn't even go that far. They said, no, we don't even want to see it on the ballot. So, you know, I represent the people in the townships that I serve. So, again, like I stated earlier, I am not really for this millage right now, especially till we have some more discussion with the road commission. We haven't talked to any of them yet, and till, you know, I would like to, I wish, which we won't know, what the state's going to do before, you know, we have to make this decision, but I certainly want to hear the road commission before I make any final decisions.
Thank you. Ian?
From the ballot language that I read that was circulated around to the townships, in my opinion, that will not be the ballot language that comes out from the county commission as it works its way through, if in fact it does. And in saying that, I think, yes, I think guarantees of at least this money are appropriate. And I think that they, at least, again, in my opinion, will be written into the ballot language. However, I'm also not naive enough to think that that means that if we have, let's just hypothetically pick a number, $1 million that are going to the roads right now, and we give them another $1 million, that automatically that guarantees there's going to be $2 million going to the roads. So I think as you know, taxpayers and citizens, we need to be mindful of that, and we need to hold those elected officials accountable for exactly what the funding is going to be after the millage, you know, as we do now before the millage, because supplanting goes on far too much in government, and when the taxpayers are getting the impression that they are funding one or an increase in an area, really all they're doing is offsetting, and that's just somewhat extremely disingenuous in my opinion.
Okay, we're going to pass the baton. Okay, Jerry, you're up.
Me again. Commissioner Roy, Commissioner Kemp, Commissioner Dave Eady have brought a lot of awareness to the issue. I'm not in favor of the road commission, but we do need bridge work. That is critical in this county. Guarantees, I don't know. I would like to see the language. I feel a lot stronger now than I did with the 2-year than I did the 6-year. I think there's a happy balance in there somewhere. I would like to see a guarantee, but I can tell you right now, and the people that I've talked to in Marathon, Rich, and Deerfield, they don't want it on the ballot. Use what you got and go from there.
Thank you. All right, Cheryl.
We have a senior millage on the ballot in August. We've had that since before I was elected. Your guarantee is in the language in that ballot. It has to go for senior services. It's very specific what we can spend it for. If we don't spend it all one year, it rolls over to the next year. So your language, your guarantee is the wording of the ballot language for the roads. And so it's our job, and we've talked about it, to make sure that that language is specific, that it has to go for the roads, that it's not surplanting. And if that language isn't correct, then there's no guarantee. But if you put the language right, there is a guarantee that it will go on the roads, that it will be above and beyond what's already spent, and that's what we have to do for that language to be approved.
Okay, thank you. All right, who had the first opening statement? Was that you, Jerry? I think it was. All right, then we're going to go backwards. Ian, you get a 1-minute closing statement. John, you're going to give me a 30-second warning, please. And everybody gets a 1-minute closing statement, and then please stay with us on stage.
Well, since we stood up for our opening statements, it's only appropriate we do for our closing. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I want to thank the Tea Party for having us. I always find these forums extremely informational, and also, quite frankly, I really enjoy doing them. It's not too often as county commissioners that we get out in front of people and talk. I really think if county commissioners do their job right, we're kind of almost the hidden form of government. We're not the government you go to when your neighbor's dog are barking. We're not the government you go to when you have a zoning issue, and we're certainly not the state or federal government, thank goodness. But I really believe that this county commission, and I said it before in my opening remarks, it has truly been a privilege to serve as county commissioner and to serve with my fellow county commissioners. I really think that in our past tenure, we have done the job that our citizenry would like us to do, and I'm extremely proud of that. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Okay, Commissioner David Eady, closing remark.
I too would like to thank all of you for having us here. I am not as comfortable as maybe Ian is, being the new guy, and I'm still, again, 3.5 years in as a commissioner. So I'm still learning, and so I get a little nervous at these things, but it's a learning experience for me, and I get to hear all the other commissioners, what they have to say, and so I truly enjoy serving as a commissioner for all of you, and I just appreciate the confidence, and thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Okay, Commissioner Lenny Schneider.
Thanks for giving us our 1 minute, because I just wanted my time to be able to give out some thanks. That's all I wanted to say. Number one, I talked about my background and my kids, but I didn't get the time to thank the woman that makes it all happen. I'll be celebrating my 30th anniversary in a couple months with my wife, and I appreciate the fact that she's always stood by me. It's tough being a cop's wife, and it's even tougher probably being a politician's wife. But I couldn't do this without her support. Also, I wanted to thank my fellow commissioners, because like it's been said before, it really is a pleasure to work with this gang, and we can be really contentious, but I think Washington and Lansing could really learn a lesson from being able to have differences of opinions, but being able to respect individuals. And then last but not least, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight and hearing us, so thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, Commissioner Dial Henning.
Thank you to the Tea Party for having us here. Thank you to all of the audience for caring enough to come out tonight to ask questions and learn. Please support the senior millage renewal on the ballot. We really count on that to provide senior services.
Okay, Commissioner Gary Roy.
I also would like to thank the Tea Party for inviting us this evening so we could express some of our opinions to this particular group about certain issues that are going on in the county. I also, basically, even though I've been here for 7.5 years, am probably not the best public speaker because I usually get a little ahead of myself. I'm a little too passionate about some issues, and I find government works way too slow. I come out of the private sector where basically I've sat with people and we can come up with $2 million, $3 million deals that basically we can put together in a matter of 2 or 3 hours. And basically, when it comes to government, it seems like we push things on and on and on, and government never seems to move quite fast enough for what I try to do or I expect. So, saying that, I would like to thank you for your support in the past, and I would like to thank you for your support going forward. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cheryl Clark.
Thank you so much for having us tonight. It's funny because sometimes Gary's Marine comes out in him real loud and clear. But I've served on a lot of boards through the county, and I have to say that this is probably the best board. I will say it. It is the best board that we've had. We're very individual. We look at all the issues, we debate, and we go out shaking hands whether we win or lose. So I'd like to thank the board for that because it's been a pleasure serving with them. I'm a born-again Christian. The Lord's the one that put me here, and I will continue to do His work as hard as I can because that's who I work for. So I will try and always do what's best for my constituents and what's right according to the Bible. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Challenger Jerry Edwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this forum and the ability to share our thoughts and our feelings and our commitments with you. As you can tell, there's a lot of hard work ahead of us. It needs to be identified, it needs to be resolved, and I'm prepared to make those tough decisions. We can make this. We can make local government stronger, and if we ever hope to change the state and the federal level, it has to start at the grassroots foundation, which is local government. I plan on running hard for this campaign. I plan on working for the people and the will of the people, and we can affect change by following through with their needs and wants. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Can we please have a round of applause for all of our commissioners and our challenger? Just stay with us. We're going to have a real short closing here. I used scrap paper, and this was my husband's resignation letter. Okay. Okay, we're going to close in prayer here, please. So if you wouldn't mind standing with us. Thank you all for coming very much. We know it's been a beautiful evening, and there's lots of places you could be, but we're glad you chose to be with us. Father, as with every meeting, we thank you, and we are so grateful that you have watched over us this evening and given us this opportunity to absorb even more knowledge. We thank you for our elected officials and leaders, and we ask that you guide them as they make their way day-to-day decisions on our behalf. As we all depart for our homes this evening, we ask that you watch over us in our travels and bless us in our efforts to use our new wisdom appropriately. We thank you so much, Father, for the liberties that come from you, and we ask that you show us the right paths to maintain those liberties. Help us to elect wise leaders who understand the laws set forth in our Constitution. Thank you once again, Father, for the independence of our nation, and we pray that you watch over our safety during our upcoming elections. Enfold us and comfort us in your bright light until we all meet again. In Jesus we pray, amen. Thank you all so much for coming. No meeting here next August. Come to Louie's and just let your hair down and have a good time. Thank you.